Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wedding to Wife podcast. I'm your host, Miss Jennifer Allen, and I'm here with another spectacular guest. And I know y'all get tired of me saying that every single week, and I don't care. You want to know why? Because all the people who I have been interviewing this season and last are just absolutely bomb. And today, my guest Darla is no exception. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Jennifer, you have no idea. I cannot wait to get into this with you.
So we just gonna dive right into it. What stood out to me instantly when I went to your social media page is it says that you wrote a book that says how to afford everything. Listen,
That's
this
right.
is a wedding planning and come on book. This is a wedding to wife podcast. And so being able to afford things definitely is something that is important. But not only that, it's how to avoid falling into this drama pit where most people end up divorced because of their finances.
That's
So
right.
let's
That's
just
right.
dive right into it. Tell people exactly what you do, how this book even came to be before we get started.
Yeah, of course. So, hi, my name is Darla Bishop. Sometimes people call me doctor because I spent a lot of
Okay.
time in school.
Okay.
And I wrote this book because it took me reading more than 100 books and years of self-study and unlearning a whole lot of mess to figure out money. And I wanted to make it easier and less painful for other people. And
Mm,
when we were coming up with the title, Um, the reason how to afford everything stuck is because this book is about being able to afford everything you need, being able to afford everything you want, wherever you are. Because sometimes you're just I just want to be able to pay these bills
right.
without tripping about it. And so this book starts from the basics, but if you have that down, it helps you elevate.
I can remember there was a point. I can remember talking to my best friend, and there was a point in my life when I told her, I said, I just want to be able to go to the store and like buy a new comforter set. Like if I want to switch it up and get some new curtains or get a new comforter, like I just want to be able to go and do that. And to because of where I am now, that seems so trivial. Like a comforter set. What are you talking about? Like, but yeah, at one point in time, I just wanted to be able to go buy a new comforter set if I so please, because I was unable to.
Right. Or to be able to put your bills on auto pay and not have any
Woo!
worry about that. Right? Like what a gift that would be for some of us
Yeah,
to be able to
yeah,
just put those bills on
and
auto
that's
pay.
so crazy to think that depending on where you are in your life, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I cannot wait to get to that point, it's coming but nothing happens without the work. And I
That's
think
right.
that's
So
where
this book,
people forget.
yeah, and this book is full of work. In fact, like right in the first chapter, we jump in and I make you do some activities. Because what I realize is in teaching people about money, if no one has actually sat down and showed them how to do it, then
Yeah,
they really don't know. And so throughout the book, there's exercises, there's worksheets, so that people can get a little bit of practice doing this before they put their real numbers into it. Because that part is scary. If you're like, what if
yeah,
I get it wrong? What if I mess it up? I can't afford to mess it up.
right.
And so I wrote the book so that you could afford everything, including getting it right.
So when it comes to planning a wedding, that off the top is just one of the most intense things, one of the biggest financial commitments outside of typically purchasing a home that
Hmm.
you are going to make. And when people aren't on the same page, it can cause a world of drama. How can people, what are some practical tips for like just opening up that honest communication with your fiance about finances? Because again, if combined y'all make $100,000, you're not about to have $100,000 wedding.
Mm. Right. And so you have to really sit down and have a lot of conversations that you might not realize you need to have in terms of how big is your family versus how big is my family?
Mm,
How important are celebrations like this in your family? So if I can tell you a story, when I was getting
yeah,
married, I was very happy to go to the justice of the peace or the courthouse because I was thinking about the math of the money, right? I
right.
was like, look, I'd rather us put that money aside, save for a house or pay. I had already purchased my home, used the money from selling that house plus anything we would have saved, spent on a wedding, and
Mm-hmm.
get a bigger, better house. And my husband's like, "Oh no, I have to have a wedding. My parents, my family
Mm.
would disown me if we didn't have a wedding. Like they are waiting for this wedding." And I was like, "Why are they waiting for this wedding? These are grown folks."
Right.
And it turns out that his grandmother really was like waiting for this
Wow.
wedding. His auntie was waiting for this wedding. And so I had to really be like, okay, well, remind me how big your family is. And does
Right.
everybody come? And is it appropriate for us to ask for support? Because I was
Right.
on the budgeting game then, and he was like, "Yeah, we can ask my parents for help. We can ask my grandma for help, but it would be helpful if we were specific." I said, "Oh, no problem. I have no problem budgeting." And so one of
Yeah.
the things we did when it came to planning our wedding and being financially responsible about it is we did all the math of how much it would cost us to have the wedding we truly wanted, to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do things for our family members. We paid for plane tickets, we bought dresses, we made
Wow.
sure that the food was delicious because we had money and we also had the time to save for it. But
Okay.
we knew that some of our classmates, some of our best friends in the world were still in school, and so they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have it. So we wanted to make traveling for our wedding easy for them. So we put all of that in our budget. So our wedding budget was very sizable. We then
Okay.
took that dollar amount and divided it by how much we knew we could comfortably put towards the wedding bank account every month. And when we did the math, it turns out it's like, well, it turns out we're going to be engaged for 22 months because that's
Okay.
how many months we needed to save. And when we told our parents, like, hey, we're going to get married in 2.5 years, they were like, you're going to get married in 2.5 years? Why? And we said, because we sat down, we did the
Mm-hmm.
math, and it's going to take us that many months to save for it. Now, if you would like to help us, we know that our DJ will cost about this much. Is that
Mm-hmm.
something you could cover? We know that our liquor will cost about this much because we
Mm-hmm.
can bring our own. And we had a lot of cash by the time we were paying for vendors. We also negotiated. We said, "Hi, we've been saving up for about a year and a half. We love your video services, and if we pay you cash today for a wedding that's not for a year, if I write you a check or go to the bank and get you a cash, would you decrease our bill by the amount of sales tax?" And the first time somebody
Mm.
asked us that, they said, "Well, why? We are a legitimate business. We have to charge sales tax." I said, "Yes, I'm not asking you to not be a legitimate business. What I'm saying is, if I pay you cash so that you're not paying credit card
Credit
fees,
card fees.
you're getting the money today for a wedding that's not for 14 months. Could you decrease my bill by that 9.25% that San Francisco charges for taxes?"
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Actually, yeah, we can do that." So because we had cash and we were happy to write a check or go
Yeah.
physically bring the cash, people gave us almost a 10% discount because we asked them to take the taxes away.
Right. Mm. Taxes will do it, and credit. And you know what's so crazy is I'm working with a bride now, and the DJ company that she's going to use, they charge a 4. So on top of Texas is 8.25%. They charge a
Hmm.
4% credit card processing fee because
Right,
they don't want to take that hit on
right.
the credit card fee. And so their alternative is you can write us a check. You can send us a check. And so she was like, well, I want to pay with the credit card, but I don't want to pay the fee. Can you waive it? And they're like, no, because we cannot afford to take that hit. And for me, I feel personally that having credit card fees is the cost of doing business. Personally, I feel like you own a business, you have to have a way to process your money. When you go to Walmart, they're paying a processing fee. It's lower than yours because of the number of transactions that they're doing, but everybody has to pay a processing fee. And I personally, and this is my personal opinion, I do not think it's fair to put a credit card fee back onto the client because that is literally how the only way that they could pay you.
Hmm.
Why are
The
you
good news,
penalizing me?
right, right. The good news is business budget, just like personal budgets and couple budgets, they just got to work for you.
Right.
And I think that's one of the pitfalls that sometimes us as couples fall into is we say, well, my mama did it this way, or
Mm-hmm.
our cousin or my sorority sister, this is how they do it. How other people do it is irrelevant. It
Right.
has to work for what's happening in your house.
Yeah, because we have a joint account. My parents do not. So many of my friends do not. They're like, some of my friends are like, I don't even know how much my husband makes. And I'm like, what? I'm like, but and I don't know if so we've been together since my husband was 19, right? So he's about to be 35. And we have gone through all of life's phases. So it's like
Hmm.
you get a job, you excited, oh look how much I'm gonna make and that sort of thing. And we calculating the bills and the money and all that stuff. And so I don't know if it's because you meet people later in life that becomes like a secret thing. And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just I don't understand it.
No, it's just sometimes like you have different money styles. So my husband and I have also been together for a very long time. I think this will make 20 years coming up soon. Married
Mm-hmm.
not as long, but together for 20. And part of it is he is very much a saver and I am a spender.
Okay.
And so what that means in terms of how we manage our money, it when we first were looking to combine, I also had some responsibilities on my side of the budget that I wasn't ready to let go of. Like at that time, I was helping my mom with a lot of stuff.
Mm.
And although we were getting married, we had made this commitment to form our household. I wasn't ready to let go of my mom just yet, right? Like she still needed me a little bit longer. I needed to give her time and a plan
Okay.
to come off of the budget. And so
Right.
part of the way that we solved that is we said, okay, we're going to do his, hers, and ours.
Mm-hmm.
So that way he didn't have feelings about me doing for my mom because that was so important for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that also meant I didn't have feelings about him spending money on things that I thought were stupid,
Right.
right? It's like, okay, that came out of your side of the budget. I have
Right.
nothing to say. That came out of my side of the budget. You have nothing to say. And it forced us to really discuss, okay, cool. This is what our expenses are. This is how much we want to save for this thing. This is how much we want to save for that thing. And that has worked for us really well. And every few years we check, like, are we at the point where it makes sense for us to combine and put everything in one
Mm-hmm.
pot? And like almost as soon as I finished asking the question, the answers, I was like, nah, we good. And it's
Okay.
just because this is the system that works. It forces a level of communication.
Right.
It forces a level of both trust, but also like I'm staying out of it, which
Yeah.
is a really nice balance for us.
No, 100%. Because the way that we typically do it is all the money goes into one pot. We pay everything. Half goes into savings, and then we split the other half amongst ourselves for you to put into your own account. If you want to give your mama your whole piece that you took, that's your business. That's not my business. It's not for me to say what you are a grown man who go to work and you work hard. You've already contributed to your household responsibilities, to your saving responsibilities. So it's not
Hmm.
my responsibility to police your part that is supposed to be your free will money. What's the point of going to work if you can't spend money the way that you want to? If you choose to give it to somebody else, if you choose to flush it down the toilet, you
Yeah.
grown. I can't control what you do with your piece, but you have to do what works for your household. And I also feel like when it comes to weddings and savings, I think that sometimes the conversation that people don't have is that when you book, when you allow your family members to contribute to your wedding, what all are they paying for? Are they just paying for the DJ, or are they paying for influence over what is happening in your wedding? Was that a conversation that y'all had?
Right. And I think we did and we didn't
Okay.
because we had been in a relationship for a while and we had a nice runway until our wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had some hints from the family members about whether that family member thought they were paying for influence or just
Okay.
handing over a check. And so the way that I navigated that as the daughter-in-law joining a big family
Mm-hmm.
is I stayed close to the people who I knew would not be conflict spaces and kind
Okay.
of dealt with them and let him manage the relationship of the folks who wanted more influence. And the good news is I married a groomzilla. He was so engaged in our wedding planning. I remember we were discussing whether we are going to do this or that when it came
Mm-hmm.
to something. And I said, well, we could do this. And I remember he looked me dead in my face and said, this is my wedding too.
Oh,
And I said, oh, I didn't care as
yeah.
much as I see that you do. So you can pick the flowers. I think it was
Right.
flowers.
Right.
And so because I knew that he really cared how this day went, it was totally fine for him to deal with those family members who wanted the influence because I know
Mm-hmm.
he would either shut it down or welcome it based on how he felt.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's so important for grooms to have a voice, because oftentimes when the wedding is over with, prime example. So my parents, my mom and my stepdad have been married for 20 years. They went to Vegas. And it wasn't until about, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago that my stepdad was like, yeah, I wish we would have had a wedding, because my mom had been married to my dad, my biological father. They had a wedding. My stepdad had never been married but before. And
Hmm.
so they went to Vegas with their friends, and very very random, my stepdad's best friend is married to Lauren London's mom. And
Oh.
so they his her mom and her stepdad were their bridesmaid and groomsmen. I know, such a random fact. But they went to the, and so 5 years ago, he was like, it might have been less than five. He's like, yeah, because my grandfather passed, my stepdad's dad passed away. And he just kind of reminiscing and thinking about it. He's like, I wish that we would have had a wedding so that Pawpaw, we called him, so that Pawpaw could have saw me get married. And
Hmm.
my mom was like just so taken aback by that comment, because she's like, why didn't you say something like this?
Like,
We didn't have to do things the way that we did it. You went along with it. And I think that oftentimes when you have a wedding, because it's viewed as the woman's day, women typically think about their wedding for their whole life and that sort of thing, that men just kind of get pushed to the side. But speak up.
yeah,
It's your
no, he
money.
did. He did. There were several times in the wedding planning process where I was like, okay, so you care about this more than I do. So I'm
Yeah.
going to fall back and you tell me how you want this to go. Because I got my dress. I'm going to look beautiful. My friend said they're coming, so I'm good.
Yeah.
So you can be picky about the flowers. You can be picky about the horse and carriage. Because I used to joke with my friends, like, he's been dreaming of this wedding since he was a little girl. So we're going to let him do what he wants.
That was so petty. That was so petty.
But we had a beautiful wedding, okay?
Tell us about
Like,
it.
we got married in Northern California on a pear orchard in a mansion.
Hmm.
The sun had just got to that perfect spot. The light was on. I came around the estates in a horse-drawn carriage. Me and my mom got out of the horse-drawn carriage, and my brother helped us walk down the aisle. When
Mm.
I saw him, he was wearing a white tuxedo because he just loves wearing white, and he
Yeah.
looked so good. I hadn't seen him all day, and I just was so happy to see him.
Oh.
And my friends and my family, everybody was just so beautiful. And then we partied hard in that big house.
Okay. So y'all initially said, okay, it was going to take 22 months if you did it by yourself to save, so on and so forth. How, with the contributions that you had from everyone, how long did it end up taking?
Yeah, so once we booked our venue, we of course kept our timeline. But what it meant is that since we did get help, we ended up getting help with the DJ. We got
Okay.
free transportation. Our a friend of a family is a shuttle bus driver, so he rented the bus at his cost and drove everyone from the hotel to the
Okay.
estate. And we got help with photography and video. And so what we ended up doing with that extra money is we padded our savings account and we took a 10-day honeymoon instead of a
Oh,
5-day honeymoon.
where did y'all go?
We went to Otros Rios, Jamaica, in the
Mm.
really, really fancy all-inclusive resort with the butler.
Oh, how was that?
It was fabulous. We were so tired of being on vacation. We had initially planned to have an overnight in Miami and to have one more night of fun. We
Mm-hmm.
canceled that and just went straight home. We were just like, we've been on vacation too long.
Oh my gosh. I want to be tired of vacation. Well, I take that back. I have been tired of vacation. Last year, we took our kids to the Nickelodeon Resort in Mexico. And we
Oh,
were
we
there
want
for
to go
six
there next.
days. I was so ready to go home.
Was
Now,
that
don't
like
get me
two?
wrong.
Was that like two too many or one too many?
That was, I think if we would have did, because we were there for 6 nights. So I think if we had been there like
Mm,
4 nights, it would have been
okay,
like,
that would have
man,
been
this
perfect.
was This was perfect. This was good. But as far as the actual experience there, you couldn't beat it. I mean, do y'all have kids?
Yes. And
Okay.
so it's on our list,
How old are your kids?
3 and 5. And so we were waiting for the little one to turn 4 so they can go to the kids club.
Yeah. When I tell you, ours did not go to the kids club. While we went in there as a group and just kind of let them move around. But when I tell you that it is tailored to children, and it's so much fun. Like, they had a blast. We spent so much time at the water park. It was,
Mhm.
and anytime you go on vacation with your children, we look at it. We while we were there, this guy that was on the tram with us, he said, because I guess at that point we just looked toe down, child. We were so tired, and he said, because we have, so our kids are our son, we have 3 boys. They are 11, 9, and 2. So
Mm.
at this point, Lennox was only 1, and so I guess I must have just looked a fool. And he was just like, when we go on vacation with our kids, we always remind ourselves that these are memory making trips for us, and it's a vacation for them. And so
Right.
he's like, this is not a vacation for you as a parent with your kids this small, but you will forever hold on to these memories. And I'm like, you know what? That is the best way to think about it and to look at it, because from a financial output, it's ridiculous, right? And so, but for them, they we went on a cruise for Christmas this year, and they're still saying, man, but you remember last year when we went to the Nickelodeon Resort and we was just ordering room service, and we were getting, because all the food is like tailored to kids, like we were just getting, and it's at their level, and they're like, and we were getting all this stuff, and we went to the bar, and they were making us like those slime drinks, and I'm like, dang, that was really something special for them because it was
Mm.
tailored to them. So Nickelodeon is not paying for this spot, this ad that I'm giving out right now, but I definitely want to say, if you want to have a fun time with your kids, definitely check out the Nickelodeon Resort. It's a ton of fun. We actually sat through the little timeshare
Oh, yeah.
speech that they gave, and because we did, we got a limo to pick us up from the airport, limo to take us back to the airport, private slime time, like just all this extra stuff just for listening and saying no. I mean, because we was gonna say no regardless.
Hmm. Right.
But to get back on topic here, what do you feel like? It seems like y'all have great communication as far as talking about money. But what advice you have for those couples who they don't have a great communication style, or one person makes a significant amount more money than the other person, and they're trying to plan this dream wedding, but the person with all the money doesn't see the value? How should they handle that?
So I'm going to take those separately because they are
Okay.
important to take separately. I'm taking the second one first. So in terms of if someone makes more or less money, one of the things that I tell couples to remember is that that's your state today. You never know, especially if you're planning to be married for the rest of your lives,
Right.
how many times that's going to flip and switch back,
Right.
right?
So don't play
Between
me.
don't, right. So between, when you time your children, who it makes sense to stay home with those kids as they're the youngest, people may go back to school, people may just be in an industry that blows up all of a sudden, is
Yeah.
that this is the balance we have now, and so you need to be always prepared that it might switch and then switch back and switch a thousand times.
Right.
And so don't get caught up on who makes more money because it is possible for that to change, right? And
Right.
so if you kind of start with that, that helps level set a lot. And then going back to your first question is like, so if we don't have good communication, part of it is like, as you have been dating, you might not realize you've been having money conversations the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
because money is one of the easiest ways that we see where our values lie, right? Like
Mm.
if it's important to me that we spend our weekends together, that means that I'm going to choose a career that doesn't have me working weekends,
Right.
right? And so I may have never said that it's important for me to spend weekends together, and that's why I would never take a job that has me working weekends, and that's why I hate that you work weekends. But as part of the ways you've talked about that, it's come up. And so one of the things that you can do, because remember, you can only control yourself, is
Right.
when these conversations come up to be like, okay, is there a money implication here? If my partner is telling me, he really wants or she really wants me to be the primary parent, what does that mean for my career? What does that mean for my earning potential?
Mm-hmm.
If my partner is telling me it's really important that we have a big, huge wedding because these are how our families get together and meet each other and have a fun time and have pictures and have memories, what does that mean and how do I make space for that? And
Right.
as long as you have a place that is of mutual respect and you approach it with curiosity and not judgment, that
Mm-hmm.
will take you so, so very far.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that 100% because everybody's values and views are different. That does not make one person right or one person wrong. And just because you make more money, it's a red flag if you're trying to be financially abusive. That is the thing. You don't get to control all the money because you make the money. If we're a team, then we're a team. That's like me saying, I got the cat, I'm keeping the cat, I'm not passing it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in control of this. So we can all start holding stuff back if that's the route you want to go. And I think that is something that is not talked about enough. My guest that we had on previously, her topic was what happens when the wife starts to out earn the husband and household responsibility shift. And
Hmm.
it was, as long as he was the breadwinner, she was at home and she worked, it was her responsibility to do XYZ at home. Well, now she makes, double what he makes. So should he automatically be the person to do XYZ at home? And it's like, well, no, because what? Because now you realize that who was doing what at home should not have been determined by the amount of money that was being made regardless. So
Right.
now that the roles have shifted, you realize, well, this is kind of messed up that I was, that because I make less money, I have to do all this extra stuff now when I'm going to work 8 hours, just like you going to work 8 hours. But because you get paid more during those 8 hours, it's now my responsibility to come home and do more work because I make less. Now the world already not showing me no value, and you just gonna add on to it when I get to the house and be like,
Hmm.
"Hey, you are second rate in here. You better wash them dishes." It's
Right.
not fair.
It's not. And the cool thing about, if you all can get to a good place quickly about when and where you talk about money, and
Yeah.
one of the ways that we do it, and I suggest for couples, especially if it's new for them, is for them to actually set a money date night. And this money date night can
Mm.
be once a month. It can be once a quarter. We do ours quarterly because that's enough time for us to know, okay, over the next 2, 3 months, what travel do we have coming up? What's our plan for paying for that? What's coming up
Mm-hmm.
for the kids? Do we need to get new uniforms? Do we have new sports registration fees? Do we have any big bills that only come up once or twice a year that we need to make sure we have a plan for? So that works
Right.
for us. But if when you're in the middle of combining finances, of pulling things together, getting your lives on a similar schedule, and planning a wedding, you probably need to have those conversations more regularly, probably at
Right.
least once a month. But make it
Right.
fun. Make it attach it to something you guys like doing together. Maybe it's going to the restaurant that's a little further out, because when you're having hard conversations, sometimes the car is the easiest place to have them, because
Yeah.
instead of looking at each other, you're side by side. You can take
Yeah.
your deep breaths.
Good
When
tip.
somebody piss you off, you can look out that window and
Yes.
out the side of your face, make that I can't believe this,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah. Yes.
without it coming to head, so that you can get through the conversation, so that you can
I
answer the
love that.
question, so you can get past it, right? And
Yeah.
so do what allows you to have those conversations until they get easier. Because just like talking about sex, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Nobody is, I think that if you kind of keep the thought process of you don't have to have all the answers and you're supposed to figure out stuff together. That's the whole
Hmm.
purpose of being married is we
Yep,
have to
that's
figure
right.
out what works for us.
That's
In
right.
our home, we don't have just flat out gender roles. I mean, if something needs to be done, do it. If I see the trash is full, I'm not finna just be like, y'all, but this trash. If I'm in the mood, I'm gonna grab it and I'll take it outside because regardless, the trash is full. Now I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna come back in the house and be like, oh, so ain't nobody see that trash overflowing when y'all was sticking that plate on top. But the point is, I'm still more than capable. If I come home from work or if I come home from a wedding and I see the trash cans are still on the curb because my husband been in the house helping the kids with homework and blah 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 blah, I'm gonna pull the trash can up. It's not that big of a deal. He's giving baths. He's cooking dinner. He's helping volunteer at the school. He coaches their games. All these things. So it's like whatever needs to be done just needs to be done. I
Right.
guess one
Like
of
50 marriages don't work, right? Like I've
no.
heard the concept of 60 marriages and 80 marriages, but the point is like you give, you give, you do, and if both of you are in the place of giving and giving and doing, that will help you a lot.
Yeah, because at some point you may have to be the 90% person because today I can only give 10. I don't have anything else in me. I cannot give more than my 10. I don't need you to still be sitting over there saying, well, all I got is 50 because one day all you're gonna be able to give is 10. You might not be able to give nothing and you're gonna need me to give all of it. And as your partner, we're gonna do that give and take dance repeatedly. And it's gonna be so important. No, this has been such a good conversation. Okay, one of my last two questions that I have is what advice would you give for somebody who one person is saying let's get a house and the other person saying let's have a wedding? How can they have do this dance of saving and spending?
So remember that money, if money was math, it'd be way easier. Money
Okay.
isn't just about math. There's emotions, there's beliefs, there's habits, there's thoughts that are all rolled into it. And so you have to become almost like an investigator. If you're the
Okay.
person who's saying, let's get a house, and the other person saying, but let's have a wedding, ask a lot of questions. Okay, why is it so important for you to have a wedding?
Mm-hmm.
What about a wedding is important for our marriage, for our life together? What value does it bring to our lives? What is it?
Right.
What's the thing you're looking most forward to in a wedding? And then for you to find out a way, if they don't take the hint and ask you the question, for you to find a way to say, okay, thank you so much for sharing that with me. The reason I thought we could focus our resources on buying a house is because of this, this,
Right.
and this. And like I see, like we both care about securing our future. We both care
Mm-hmm.
about making sure that we're not spread too thin. So which do we do first? Because
Right.
sometimes it's not about yes, it's not about yes or no. It's not about this or that. Sometimes it's about which order. Sometimes you just have to choose.
Right.
We do this one first, and then we
Right.
do this one second. And remember, when it comes to money, there's really only two ways to work money. You either reduce your expenses or increase your income. And so if it turns out what you want to do you just don't have enough money for, that means
Right.
you either take a lot more time to figure that out,
Right.
or y'all both go out and figure out how to bring more money into the household.
Right. No. That makes complete sense. Reduce your expenses or increase your income. So if you're listening to this, that means either cut back on that guest count so that you're reducing the number of people that you have to feed and entertain and provide this experience for, or consider getting a part-time job to pick up to increase your income to pay for exactly what you want to have for your wedding. There are always things that you can do to make what you want happen. It's just how important is it for you to make that a thing. Limit how many people can have a plus one. Reduce the number of people that you invite. Like that's a real
Have it
thing.
on a
Oh,
have it on an off cycle day.
correct.
Um, make
Thursday
your
weddings are
wedding
it.
right. Make your wedding a little further out to just give you more time
Yeah.
to save up the money. Like
Yeah.
I said, our parents were really like, why are y'all not getting married for like 2.5 years? And we're like, because we don't want to go into debt for our wedding. We want to
Yeah.
have a beautiful wedding and we don't want to go into debt. So this is the way we
Yeah.
figured it out.
No, darling, this is so good. Tell everybody. First of all, I want you to tell everybody where they can follow you on social media, where they can buy your book, because I'm buying it, where they can buy your book, and all this stuff is going to be linked at the bottom here. So tell us all the things.
Yes, so it's easy to find me on all the socials at my_finances. The last 3 letters is sis because I'm the big sis.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
My
Gotcha.
finances.
Gotcha.
And then you can, my website is easy to remember. It's affordeverythingbook.com. You can find my book on my website, on Amazon, on TikTok Shop. And so you can find it a lot of places.
Yeah. And I'm going to have it and I'm going to share it. And this has been so good, Darla. Thank you so much for coming on and providing us with this insight. And I appreciate all of you for listening to another episode of the Wedding to Wife podcast. You can follow us on social media at Wedding to Wife podcast. And of course, weddingtowifepodcast.com. I'm your host, Jennifer Allen, and I will see you again next week.